Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're once again going to be talking about that major upcoming snowstorm. Now, before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do think weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. Now, I'd also highly recommend that you check out our very exciting store in the description and in the pinned comment down below, and then also our very awesome Patreon page in the same location. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I want to know, how much is the maximum snow you think anybody sees with this snowstorm? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now let's get straight into this video, and we're starting out with our European model here on our simulated radar. We're going to eventually move on to that GFS model as well. We're just going to walk through each of these with you guys here. We're even going to take a look at some temperatures, take a look at what the probabilities are of certain regions seeing some accumulating snowfall. Lots and lots of information coming up. So we're starting out with this storm. It's for the central United States to begin things, and this is really just generally, I would say, about 3 or 4 p.m. there on Wednesday, January 6th. So this is already just tomorrow from the time I'm making this video, so we're very close to the start of this storm. Let's just take it to about, this is probably about the same time, but on Thursday. So this is going to be about Thursday at 3 or 4 p.m. there on January 7th. And as you can see, there is some snowfall around from Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, portions of Tennessee. It looks like it's going to be a wintry mix for you guys there. It's going to really struggle to stay all snow. Again, this is during the day, so it's not going to be super cold, but just cold enough for the very northern extent to see some snowfall. But what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to move on towards the nighttime hours where things are going to get a lot colder and a lot snowier in just a moment. Alright, now here we are taking a look at about maybe 1 a.m. here on Friday, January 8th, and as you can see, a lot of those areas that we're seeing snow and rain mixed in, or maybe even just rain, are now switched over to snow. Especially notable there is central Tennessee. Also, the mountains there in Tennessee and North Carolina are starting to get some snow showers there. That is a bullseye area for me, I think there, and if you extend that up into Virginia, that's pretty much my bullseye. The pink areas on the thumbnail in general are where I think the highest chance for large amounts of accumulation is. Let's just take this to about, I would say this is about 10 or 11 a.m. there on Friday, January 8th, and look at those areas I just mentioned, Tennessee, and then just pull that eastward over the mountains into North Carolina. Moderate to heavy snowfall there. This area is looking better and better with each model run. And then notice that South Central Virginia is getting snowfall, but look at the areas in eastern North Carolina and eastern Virginia. I live in this region. I love snow, so I wish I could say that I'm going to get a ton of snow, and these areas are as well. I know this is disappointing. I know I have a lot of viewers from Hampton Roads and surrounding regions, my local area, so I'm going to talk to you guys specifically in just a moment about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to move a little bit further into this European model run, and then we're going to get into the GFS and then start talking about total snowfall and temperatures and why I think accumulating snowfall is going to be not very likely near the coast. All right, now we're taking a look at about 3 or 4 p.m. here on Friday, January 8th. And look at that. All that snow stays inland, just like I said. Our low pressure center is just offshore of North Carolina. Typically, in a very typical situation in the wintertime, you would see the snow rain line a lot further east. All of Hampton Roads would be all snow. A lot of northeastern North Carolina would with this low pressure location. It's the temperatures in the current pattern we're in that is really just not allowing for that to happen. And that's why that bullseye from the mountainous regions of North Carolina and Tennessee, the Smoky Mountains, up into a lot of southwestern Virginia and maybe even south central and central Virginia, possibly seeing the bullseye there. You can see they're seeing moderate to heavy snowfall as I speak on that frame right there. Let's take it to about 11 or 10 p.m. maybe there on Friday still. And as you can see, that low pressure center is well offshore of North Carolina and Virginia. Again, typically all of Hampton Roads and all of northeastern North Carolina would be seeing snowfall by this point, but it's rain. It shows some snowfall trying to mix in for Raleigh potentially, but I think that could even be quite unlikely at this point. We will talk about that in just a moment. What this model does show is that eventually at about maybe 3 or 4 a.m. we start to see some snow mix in at the very, very end, but it's going to be too little too late, and I do think we will see flakes for many of these regions. Again, accumulation is just not going to be likely at all, and there's even moderate to heavy snowfall, so in a typical situation, you would see accumulation, but this is not a typical situation. And as we reach about 7 a.m. there on Saturday, January 9th, you can see that there is still some snowfall, but that eventually moves out. So what we're going to do here is we're going to move on and take a look at that GFS model, see what that one has to say, why it's a little bit different, and then we're going to get right into the temperature pattern so I can show you guys why I don't think that there is going to be much accumulating snowfall. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the GFS. The one thing I want to mention is that for those areas like Southeast Virginia, Northeastern North Carolina, the GFS actually does have a higher chance of snowfall than the European model did. The bad news for snow lovers in these regions is that the European model is typically much better than the GFS model. So that's kind of the thing we're working against here. And I'm desperate for snow, guys. I want you to know, like, I really, really want snow. So if anything, my bias would be towards us getting snow, not against. So you can definitely believe what I'm saying here because I hate saying everything I'm saying here. This is by about 1 a.m. here on Friday. As you can see, there is some snowfall going on for Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina there. And as we move it on towards about maybe 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. here on Friday, January 8th, that low pressure center is offshore there of North Carolina, a little bit more well offshore there than what the European model was showing. And that heaviest snowfall is a little bit further east. You can see it's not really for Tennessee there. It's mostly for North Carolina. And that extends pretty well into the central regions of North Carolina actually as well. And notice there's already some snowfall mixing in kind of near Lake Gaston areas to the east of there as well in Virginia. So there is some snowfall mixing in a little bit earlier than what the other model, the European model, was showing. And then by the time we reach maybe about 4 p.m. here on Friday, January 8th, you can see there's moderate snowfall going on for central North Carolina. That rain snow line is set up pretty much, I would say, on the Chesapeake, Suffolk borderline there as far as counties in Virginia. I'm not as familiar with the counties down there in North Carolina, but I can say that a lot of these regions are seeing snowfall, but just not Chesapeake, not Virginia Beach, not Norfolk, not those regions. But by the time we reach about 7 p.m., this model does show us switching over to snow a lot earlier than that European model did, and it's actually moderate to heavy. In this scenario, although accumulation is still unlikely, this is the most likely for accumulation out of either model at this point. The low pressure center is pretty strong and it's pretty well offshore. Let's just take it to about maybe 10 p.m. and you can see still some moderate snowfall coming down. So that's a good few hours there. So that's going to definitely increase the odds of snowfall accumulation again compared to that European model. And then by the time we reach about maybe 2 a.m., it's pretty much all said and done on that model. All right, now let's take a look quickly at the Canadian model, see what this one has to say. Again, snowfall in similar regions there for the central United States, but it looks a lot more like the European model by the time we reach 7 a.m. there on Friday. We do see that heavy snowfall for Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, so it has the same bullseye as the European model, so the GFS is kind of the outlier at this point. All right, now what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, and we're going to take a look at the total snowfall according to the European model, and then the GFS model, and then the Canadian model. And then we're going to take a little bit of a look at the NAM model, and then we're going to close out the video. All right, so I have a few interesting things to show you guys actually here. So we're looking at the actual low temperatures. I picked the lowest temperature on any frame for that night, Friday into Saturday, where there would be snowfall. And the only areas that are really going to be struggling bad with temperatures is this region here, south of that red line. So according to the European model, the low temperatures are only going to be 32 if you're west or north of that red line I've drawn there. If you're south or east of that, you're pretty much at 33, 34, 35, as you can see with the numbers on the screen. That means it's going to be very hard for snow to accumulate. I've been in situations where there's been heavy snow for hours and hours and hours, cannot accumulate when it's above 32, just cannot. We had a situation like that last year. Would not accumulate no matter what. It takes very heavy snowfall to get it sticking, and if that does happen, then it can start sticking. But that's not what you want to be relying on for a snowfall event. Now, let's take a look at that total snowfall, and as you can see, it definitely reflects that line I just drew, because if you're north or west of that, that's where most of that accumulation is set up. And then anyway, areas south and east of there, with the exception of that little band in North Carolina, you're really looking at limited amounts of accumulation. You can pretty much just get rid of those gray areas because there's not going to be just a dusting. If it's going to stick, it's really going to stick because there's going to be a heavy band that comes through that's enough for it to stick, and then anything after that is pretty much going to stick. But I don't think you're going to get like 0.2 inches. That would just melt away. Let's compare the GFS temperatures now. So the red line is still on the screen where the European model had the freezing line, but let's take a look at that blue line here, which is the GFS's freezing line. And as you can see, many regions like Virginia and North Carolina are below freezing actually as their lows, maybe 31, 29 in some regions that were 34 on the European model. So a significant difference here on the GFS versus the European. And also when we looked at that simulated radar, there was a massive difference there. So the GFS solution plays out. There's a lot higher of a probability of accumulating snowfall there for eastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia. Because again, if you're above 32, the chances of that snow sticking is just very limited. But with the GFS solution there, with those, again, that bluish, purplish line below. So if you're north of there or west of that line, which most areas are that were just east of the European one, well, now all of a sudden, it could accumulate a lot easier than what the European model is showing. So let's take a look at that total snowfall here on the GFS, and I buy this a lot more. I think that those, I would say generally 1 to 3 to 4 inches there for northeastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia is actually quite legitimate here. I think if the GFS solution plays out, you could be looking at about 1, 2, 3 inches potentially, which snow lovers in this area would obviously be very happy with that. Now, the Canadian model total snowfall, back to the European, not a lot of snowfall for these regions. Near Lake Gaston, though, actually quite a bit. I think it's somewhere in between what the GFS and the European model are calling for. So we will be watching that as well. There's a lot of scenarios still on the table, and the storm doesn't even exist yet. So we're going to be watching this closely. We have a couple more days to view this one, to talk about it. There could be some trends south, east, northwest, colder, warmer. It could go all over the place, and that's how it's done all year. So there's a lot more time. So nobody should be losing hope at this point yet. Now, I wanted to compare one thing here for you guys, that this could also be another good piece of news here. The European model at about 1 p.m. here on Friday was showing this, so take a mental note of what's going on here, and let's move on and take a look at that NAM 12 km model, and look at how much further south that is. And it's also allowing much colder temperatures as we move in. Let's take a look at what the European model was showing at 1 p.m. there on Friday. And as you can see, generally 40s there for a lot of eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia. And then the western regions of those states, the upper 30s or mid 30s. And then the NAM model has lower 30s for the western portions of those states, and then upper 30s, lower 40s for the eastern portion. So it's generally a good, I would say generally 2 to 4 degrees lower for pretty much everywhere here on the NAM model. That could, again, be a good piece of news that these higher resolution models that are just becoming in range to see this storm. So again, these only go out 84 hours. This is the maximum they go out. This could be a piece of good news that these new models are showing this, the ones that we're just getting information for. So we will have to see how those ones trend as well. There's a lot of things going on here, and I'm so excited to talk about this storm for the next few days for you guys. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, which state do you think will see the most snowfall? And he said around Asheville, North Carolina, I think we'll see the most. And I like getting specific there. That's a very bold call. But I do agree. I think that area is a very good area to be for this specific storm. Anyway, for today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons: Sebastian Tao, John Benbenick, Justin Quantrell, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Alan Belemo, Adam S., Larry LePan, Donna Carnes, Cameron Marshall, and Aiden Mattis, alongside our diamond patrons: Bill Roberts, Alan Sherry, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Codalessa, Michael Buell, Terry Curtis, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Kellen Manhart, It's Jay, Cindy Klein, Alicia Davis, and Mark J. If you would like to be on this patron end screen, you can do so by joining our very exciting Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media. I will see you guys in the next video.